Hey guys, it's Will. Hopefully you're having a great day today. In this video, we're going to go over the top space, AI, and tech, as well as some nuclear stocks today. So hopefully you enjoy. Let's jump in. Hopefully you enjoy. So a couple things we got going on here. First, just to preface, we entered some swing trades on some stocks really about a month ago on AMD. You can see AMD's up. You got AMDL there. We're up 41% AMD. Black Sky's up 35% since entry. Taiwan Semi's up 23%, and Microsoft's up about 17% in these recent swing trades. So we've been able to identify some pretty nice markets moves as of recently. And I wanted to talk about what kind of led to those decisions. And we're also going to break down some tickers for you guys. If you want to go ahead and comment below, let me know what you guys are watching. That would be awesome. I'm going to start off here with AMD stock. So AMD is the type of company that you watch and you say, are they operating now the way that they work? Are they working towards a way now that would be the way that their company should operate 5 years from now? And when I look at AMD, I do believe that because they have a lot of growth in the right places. Yes, they are working in the GPU space. They have the development of new technologies for faster computing. They have more data centers that they have been building as of recently. And they also have revenues here in extreme surgences, net income basically quadrupling year over year. I think it was every single quarter throughout 2024 into 2025, they doubled their revenue. And during that period of time, they had sold down. And we said, hey, this just doesn't make sense. We saw them find this last ditch support at about $79 a share. And that's when we entered some positions there, as well as with AMDL. And we see them get back into this $140 price point today. It is good to see that they're back up into this range because the next targets are up here. So when it comes down to some of the reasons they're surging, we say 5 years from now, are they operating the way that they should be 5 years from now? And I would say yes, because you look at some of their partnerships. They recently started supplying the Starlink satellite microchips to power all of the Starlink satellites. And what's the number one indicator that we look for when validating a market? The first is the revenue that we see, the growth in their financials, but then we're identifying the actual usage of the market, the real world usage. And personally, I've seen the Starlink satellites fly over my house, over the mountains in California here, and watched that constellation just look so beautiful. And it honestly was very encouraging because it's real world usage. So AMD there with Starlink, so that's a space tech play. And then we also have resistance here at this level that they are recently tapping up to. So I like to see it. The next level for AMD stock, if we look at some of the growth potential for them, they've been on this very nice trajectory. Now they're looking even a little over bought here at $141. And they also are up here to making this range, this swing up into this level that is a previous resistance. That's a 30% swing from here, a 60% swing over on AMDL. And it's a trend that we're identifying. This level right here, this previous resistance at $170 a share, really kind of seeing this move take place would be the next target for AMD if they're really going to continue this rally. However, again, they look overbought. It's possible we see a sell down even as low as $122 unless they just absolutely continue to rock it up as they have in the past when we have seen them make these runs. So I'm going to pull up the live chat, make sure I can see you guys as we continue the analysis. The other thing to note, you have NVIDIA, you have Intel, you got Dell, you have Supermicro Computer, you have a lot of the companies that are being mentioned, Taiwan Semiconductor, Broadcom, for all the semiconductor space. The GPUs with NVIDIA are oftentimes compared to AMD if not seen as less superior to AMD, as certain companies choose AMD over NVIDIA. Now, you have definitely some companies, you got Apple, you got Tesla, you have XAI, and then also AMD is working on building their own LLM. So, similar to like ChatGPT, we know that the data centers that run AI are NVIDIA and AMD and what have you. But recently, AMD just announced that they were purchasing this company here that is a software company that specializes in optimizing for AMD processors to build out large language models. So it was Brium acquisition about a week and a half ago, where you can see this acquisition showcasing the difference between the language models for Brium running on GPUs here on inference on MI210 generating tokens, Brium on the left moving faster, and on the right you got SG Lang. Why is that important? It means they're optimizing to run very efficiently on AMD, and then AMD bought the software company. So now AMD possibly developing their own AI that will be very highly responsive. So that's another reason to look at AMD, aside from the really favorable financials. So we'll be continuing to watch them over the next couple of weeks for sure. And I really like to see some of the growth, and also that thumbnail on the video from our team member, Yoga. Thanks so much. So Marty says he sold Big Bear AI to go buy uranium and then peace deal. There you go. Jose Alberto says QUBT. I won't be covering it. I think it's, I haven't seen real world value as much there. I'll take a look though. Marty Clark, when is the next AMD dip? That's what I'm kind of looking at here. So there is a resistance level that it just reached, and it's this level right here. It's at about $135 a share. There's a support there. Previous support oftentimes acts as a resistance, and that's where we see it right now. So as it's approaching this level and starting to push up into new territory, having a really good run, it's possible we see a pull down. But again, when it makes this run, it's not always a big pull down. Sometimes it makes this run, and we see it like back in 2023 continue to rally all the way to highs with little pullbacks, like small pullbacks that, yeah, they do dip below for a minute maybe, but it's actually holding above that EMA, that exponential moving average, that blue line. And that's what we would watch here. Like, for example, a pullback to this $127 range or this EMA would be good indication that then it could potentially be a buy if it's going to continue its upward momentum. So that's going to be one we watch. Now, the next one to take a look at here, we got, it was a really good day, right? So we had Big Bear AI surge like 25%, which is really good. And then also we had some growth on AMD. AMDL did well. And then Trade with Rolo says, how long do you hold the 2x leverage stocks? It depends on the risk, and it depends on the confidence. The rule of thumb is 2x is for day trading and short-term trading, and the single stocks are for longer-term holding. The 2x also have decay, where they have management fees, so they're not the most ideal to hold long-term. However, this 41% profit there with AMDL, I don't really need to say it's 41%, but that is pretty cool to say, right? Is as a result of holding the 2x. Sometimes we do, if we find a lot of confidence. You know, we've seen AMD sell down. The moment everybody's saying it's done, it's going to keep selling down, and people are calling it the advanced money destroyer or whatever. At that moment, I was like, oh, it's time to buy AMD. And so that's when we kind of doubled down, and we've been in it for a little bit there. So that was kind of the thought process on why we held what was actually a slightly more risky short-term play that turned into kind of a long-term hold there. Mark says, BBAI, let's go. Yeah, hey, 25%. Yeah, I think it might have even surged a little bit there. I don't know if it corrected after hours. It looks like it did not. Looks like it's still up even after hours. We're at 0% holding. So when I was looking at some of the quantum companies recently, there's a lot of research to be done even now. We've done some research, we've gone to conferences, we got to speak with executives on IonQ, IBM, Microsoft in that last CES conference in Vegas. And that was very insightful. We even went to that QBTS conference. We were able to speak with all of their team members that are working on the quantum computers, how we could really analyze their marketing. Uh, Personally, I found that the technical focus and progress focus on Rigetti and being very transparent, and IonQ very transparent about, hey, we got a long ways to go, but we're building this, we're building these trapped ion computers and everything else, was a reason to trust them. When we went to QBTS, it was very much like, we're revolutionizing, no one's catching up, we're the top company, this is like no comparisons. But to me, there was just a few things that were really, really good at marketing, which I agree they're successful. They've been able to make it back to all-time highs and exceed all-time highs up to $19. But I found it to be very marketing oriented. I actually opened up a few short positions up here on QBTS in the Schwab portfolio. And I've been talking about it for a little bit, but I think that there was a hype there. I mean, I saw it firsthand. It's not something that is negative. It's not something that's bad. It's just very healthy and normal that when a stock goes up very high, there's going to most likely going to be some corrections. And QBTS did surge up to that $20 price point, sold back down. I think, we actually drew this resistance level when it was at its all-time highs and basically said, this is probably going to sell all the way back down to this previous resistance, and that's when it potentially could be a good deal. And we haven't really touched it other than the short. And it's just kind of sold down, it's bled out, and it's possible, if we are accurate in our analysis, that it does find that support, and then that's when maybe we start to see recoveries. And that would be kind of nicely timed potentially. I can't tell the future, but I would just imagine that the way that they're operating, we'd see some sell downs take place. And that's where we could potentially look for more of a buy, right? So that's what we'd kind of look for. When it comes to, with the exception of any like very, the freak catalyst that could send it soaring, or the freak catalyst that, tanks the stock or something, to me, that would make sense. Yeah. And then Jose Alberto says APLD. Let's take a look at it. So again, quantum market is moving. We like to see it. Let's take a look at APLD. APLD specializes in building data centers, which is mostly going to be one of the main infrastructures that AI is built on. We last looked at this as a resistance, and we said a sell down to $10, which it recently did just sell down to. So now things starting to look more potentially like in that buy range. The reason that we don't see them as overextended still, and why we're not saying, they're going to continue sell down and sell down even further, which it's possible from a technical standpoint, that actually kind of makes a lot of sense. You can see this previous resistance there, consolidation, and they just broke this level, this previous resistance, and they could sell as low as 7. But one thing to note is they're building data centers. They're in a very fast growing market. And on top of that, they have some recent contracts that would absolutely continue to support the growth of their stock. What I like to see is that they are showing real pictures of constructions and real pictures of things. They do have some 3D generated stuff, but one of the main things we look for are real pictures, real catalysts, not just hype and that this is going to be the next big thing because they're building data centers. But with some of their contracts, they got Supermicro Computer, which supplies the housing, the actual housing for the GPUs inside of data centers. And specifically, one of their big partnerships, Supermicro, is NVIDIA as well as xAI. So for Elon's company there in Austin. And then you have, data centers, who's trusting them to build the data centers? You got NVIDIA, Dell Technologies, Intel, yeah, Supermicro once again there. And they recently closed this right here. It was a $7 billion deal. $7 billion deal. And I actually don't want to watch that. That's not what I'm trying to do. Sorry about that, guys. I'd like to go directly to the source, actually, rather than CNBC. Even though they posted on their website, let's go directly to the source. So $2.7 billion in data center savings. So one thing they specialize in is, before we get into that big deal, they specialize in specifically the data centers, but also the way that they build them is better cooling, better energy sources, mostly placed near renewable energy sources. And their scalability is designed for places that can have, they're engineered to bring workloads directly to the point of generation. So they have nearby sustainable power. So when we're looking at that recent article or the recent release, they just announced it was this CoreWeave data center lease in North Dakota, and it's a $7 billion anticipated total revenue generation as a result of working with CoreWeave. This is a huge deal. It's a 15-year lease agreement. Their CoreWeave is a hyperscaler. I'm not extremely familiar with the company. I've done some research. You can see they're trusted by OpenAI, Google. You got Waveforms AI, Stability.ai. So they're trusted by some big AI players. And what does that mean? It simply means this. It simply means that the reason that, for example, NVIDIA was a good investment back in 2020 and could still be seen that way, or 2018, was because you could look at NVIDIA and say, what do? They supply the GPUs for Tesla. They supply the GPUs for Apple or what have you. And you'd say, okay, so this iPhone that I'm holding in my hand right here, or this Tesla that you're seeing, or these full self-driving cars, they're being powered by what microchips, by what technology? It was NVIDIA. And so that was a really good indication that in the future, the value of their company was going to grow very, very, very much because these large big tech companies were becoming reliant on NVIDIA. Does that make sense? So essentially what happened here, does everybody get that? So what we're doing is unwrapping the value. We're seeing where are the connections. And with Applied Digital, you have this data center building, and they're building it for AI companies that are the leaders in AI. So what does that mean? These AI companies are going to not only be reliant on the data center building from Applied Digital, most likely, if not other companies, which totally makes sense. It's a free market here. But what we're looking at is that also they're capitalizing on the lease, because when they build it, they're then renting it out. In this case, what could be a 15-year lease for $7 billion as confirmed with CoreWeave. And then, so that actually indicates a lot of growth. So it's a really good call out there, Jose. I appreciate it. Yeah, really appreciate it. That's a good one. So when it comes to the levels, I would target if it's going to bounce here around this $10 range. Next level we'd be looking for, which actually really will keep an eye on this at market open tomorrow. There's a few stocks, we've been diving in quickly into stocks, but maybe we'll be a little patient and really take a moment to look at some stocks, to really look at the overall pictures, which ones are dipping the most and things like that tomorrow morning. Because APLD has this chance to go up about 50% if it recovers to previous highs, but to previous resistance on this consistent left to right trend that it's had for a few months there, we're looking at a recovery. If it does continue up after this correction, which there is no indication yet, would be about a 25% swing. What we'd look for is confirmation that it is validating that support, that it is starting to push up above the EMA there. And at that moment, I would find it to be a better potential deal. Otherwise, we could see it sell down, and we don't like to see that. We see it at that resistance. It is selling down, but there's a strong previous resistance that could potentially act as a support that we'll be watching there at market open tomorrow. So that's going to be one we'll be watching. DNA Danny says, take a look at RGTI. Yeah, Danny, and let me know, what is it that you're looking at with RGTI? Let me know. What are you looking at? Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Some people come to me and they say, yeah, I'm looking at it because I want to short the company. And others are like, yeah, I'm looking at it as a buying opportunity. So we saw some swings. It was pushing up there about 10%. We saw that movement take place. Been a little bit since we covered it, but then we saw it sell the key level. It just broke below that 200-day moving average. However, that's okay. What we'd kind of like to see is a break back above it to turn bullish. There's a previous resistance level right here. Consolidation. Keep this overall uptrend Rigetti stock. Something kind of like this. And I have more markups than I usually have, so let me just erase them. There you go. And we look for this here. Now, a couple things to consider. It's right below that 200-day moving average. So while it would be nice to see this swing take place, that 35% swing on Rigetti, what I would look for is to watch the level it's at closely. We just pointed out it's at this previous resistance. And also, you got this trend kind of working against it right now. So right here, resistance, resistance, and potentially could get rejected. You see it sell off, push up, get rejected, sell off. Now it's pushing up. Maybe it gets rejected. It continues down. So you got to watch. Yeah, it's possible it keeps this trend though, but just kind of watch this level. And what I would do is probably set, if we enter it, let's say, when we get indication it's a good trade, the reason we would enter it here is because the risk, if it's going to validate this and start to make this swing that we're mapping out, the risk looks relatively low. So that it does look relatively low compared to the margin for profit. If it keeps its overall direction here, potentially, then we set a stop somewhere in here and we look for that swing because the risk is lower and the margin is much higher than that of the risk. But again, like, it can be volatile and we do see this recovery, but it's holding below that 200-day moving average. That is the chart side of things. The company has had a lot of innovations. They're a quantum computing company. They are partnered with NVIDIA. They are partnered with AWS. If you want to go see, you could actually experimentally tap into this company through the cloud. They have a lot of institutional ownership that's increasing. Look at all the increased positions, about 243 holders, while decreased positions only 89. They got some of the biggest hitters, BlackRock and Vanguard. Does it mean that is the only thing? If that's happening, they're going up? Not necessarily. The financials need some work, and I think that's where we kind of have talked about Rigetti and had that extra look, because we know it could consolidate. We were waiting for this recovery for a couple months before it shot back up. We know it could consolidate. So with the financials pushing it the way it pushes it, the recent earnings have showed signs of big net income losses. And so their balance sheet, though, has looked promising with total assets increasing. But as far as revenue and things like that, it's not there yet. So you're buying what could be, but you do have NVIDIA backing. You got Microsoft. You got some of the biggest companies really looking to capitalize on what could be the potential here of their quantum computers working in tandem with GPUs. So it's there. That's a move we'll be watching. And why we want to take a look, because if they are breakthrough tech that become the next QPUs and the evolution of GPUs potentially, or at least working in tandem with GPUs, the potential of computing power, is crazy. Like, imagine they're able to cut computing power by half or less, and how much of a difference that would make, and how many more tech companies would want to use quantum computers. So there's a reason that you have Amazon, working with Rigetti and NVIDIA working with Rigetti closely. If there was nothing there, there would be nothing there, but there's definitely something there. So I think it's a good one. Sound is cutting in and out. Sorry about that, guys. I'm gonna have to end the stream if that's what's going on. I'm not sure why that happens. And thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you all. Sorry that's going on. I wish it wasn't cutting out. I don't know why that happens. Maybe it's something to do with the internet showing good. I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that, guys. But anyway, with that being said, I would like to do some more ticker symbols, but again, audio is kind of cutting out. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I appreciate you all. We will be catching up tomorrow morning. If you want to join us in our daily live trading session, it's tomorrow at Market Open. It's the second link in the description. We got some daily live trading happening, and the virtual stock trading system is in the first link in the description. If you'd like to get those modules and a one-on-one call with me, it's there. So thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate you all. Hopefully I earned a thumbs up. If I earned it, do hit the like button. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys.